Live. Okay, it's a 101 Small Business Mastermind podcast number 10, I think it is. And with us today, we've got a panel of four, or me included, obviously. I think we may get some other people joining us along the way. So we have Richard Bentley. Say hi, Dick.
Hi, everybody. How you doing this morning?
We're all doing pretty good there. And Mark Giardino. Mark?
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Palm Springs Sport. No, this referral. What is it now?
Also, sports referral or sportsrefer.com, and Palm Springs Sport is a component of sportsrefer.com.
Okay, good.
You're right.
Mm-hmm. And then Frank Syringa.
Yes. Good morning.
I got it right?
Yes, you got it right.
Oh, you just got to do that a whole bunch of times there. So, and you're with us, and you're going to carry the second segment of the podcast today on what we learned from the news. And you have two pieces.
It's called Twin Small Business Lessons. TWIN is an acronym for This Week in the News.
Okay, you got to like that. Of course, hopefully we don't get sued by Twit or, This Week in Tech, which also has This Week in Google and This Week in Security and This Week in Bitcoin, all that stuff, but Leo Laporte. So anyway, all right, let me see if I can bring up, I want to share my screen. The next piece of the puzzle for the internet marketing part is basically the SEO of your own website. We've covered all the intros in getting into that situation, but now once you do have your website, we've done the keywords and keyword analysis and etc. But now, how do you use those keywords and what do they really mean? And there are basically 8 places that, hopefully I see it here, there's 8 places, 8 places, well, I might have to tell us. Well, why wouldn't that be there? The marvels of internet technology. I can see it right now. All right. Well, I'll tell you what they are. Basically, and so everybody grab their notes. Basically, the first place you put your keywords are in the H1 tags, and those are the header tags that you can use, and Google looks at those header tags for keywords. So that's obviously one of the first places to use it. The title of each page, individual page in your website, can have the keyword in it as well. Captions under pictures, that's your number 3 place to put them. Google tends to see, remember, Google has to try to figure out what you're all about without asking you. And so it looks in some key places and sees if it can figure it out. And then, but captions under pictures are really a juicy place, because anybody that's going to put a picture up, and if they're going to caption it, that must be really important to what they're talking about. So that's another place. Page descriptions is another place. That's number 4. So inside the code itself, meta tags, there's a place called page description. And page descriptions are, of course, what you see when you do a Google search or any search, and you see it comes up with a URL and a brief description of what it is. Those are page descriptions. So you want to use your keywords in there on each page. And of course, you don't use all your keywords on each page. You only list the keywords you actually use, and you should use no more than 2 a page. And you should not use it more than twice for every 100 words. That's called keyword density. So you can't, otherwise you'll get penalized for what they call keyword stuffing. All right, so the 5th place is clickable links. Very important, because again, Google's going to look at your menu, your clickable links in your menu, and try to see what you're all about. And so by putting your keywords in clickable links either in the menu itself or in the ad copy in clickable links is really important. The 6th place is in the meta tags themselves. So Google claims they don't even look at the meta tags anymore, and they haven't for 10 years. I kind of sort of don't think that may be true, but it doesn't hurt to put them in there for sure. And again, each page has its own meta tags, and you can only use the keywords in that meta tag that you actually used on the page. It can do a check to see. So if you have a bunch of keywords and meta tags but you don't use them anymore on the site, then on that page, then they understand you're trying to trick them. And you don't want that. You want to be Google friendly. You want to give them what they need to figure out who you are. And then there's number 7th place is an image tags. Every image on the web has a title and image tag. So you can put the tag, or in this case, your keyword in that image tag. And finally, number 8 is in the ad copy itself. Those are the words on the page. And so those are the 8 places you strategically place your keywords so that you can be found and ranked for those keywords. Now remember, people will say, oh, I can get you on the first page of a Google search. Anybody who says that is a liar. Okay? Now, what they can say is I might be able to get you on the first page of a Google search for your particular keyword that we can actually compete with. And again, back to the keyword part, just because, like in case of Mark, sports, he's never going to rank for the word sports by itself. It's just too big, too much competition. Now, he could rank for Palm Springs sports or something along those lines, a local side. Or in my Defender PDWS.biz site, I'm trying to rank for self-defense weapons and self-defense weapon, singular, which I'm is within my ability to get on the first page if Google gods are with me. So those are the places to remember to put your keywords in your site. Again, step back and think of what Google's going to see when they do visit your site, and they're going to try to look for who you are, because relevance to them is everything. And if you can't make yourself relevant to them for the keywords you want to rank for so you can get traffic in there, you'll have no traffic at all. And that's my third part of my internet speech, all in a few minutes. So any questions before we head on over to Frank's side of life?
Yeah, Peter, I have. How often do you review the effectiveness of the keywords and maybe add or delete or change them?
Yeah, you never delete them. You can always add to them, and it's good to add new, fresh keywords every three to 4 months. And there's actually, not to confuse the issue, but there's 4 types of keywords. The first keywords we lay in there are like the roots of the tree keywords, and then as the tree grows up, there's a trunk. And then finally you get the branches, and finally you get the leaves. And so there are keywords called long tail keywords or long tail phrase keywords, like what's the best self-defense weapon? That would be a long tail phrase keyword. And we can search for that and see if anybody searches for it first off. And if we see that it's popularly searched, then we go look at the competition against that keyword. And if we can find that, yeah, that looks pretty good, then on the next heavy lift stick, we go in and we put those in. We sprinkle them like fairy dust through the site. And so sites are never done. They're always dynamic, should always be dynamic, should be growing. Google likes fresh content. If it sees you have an active site, then you must be an authority in your area, and it's looking for authority people to put up on that front page or to rank for that front page. And so it's real important to keep your site constantly growing. Very much like our 101 Small Business Mastermind site is constantly growing every week by these podcasts and more stuff. They like that. So we'll ultimately rank well when somebody's looking for small business or small business masterminds or anything like that. We should start to rank well. Yeah. Good question. Anybody else before we leave?
I have a question. Again, as you know, my attention span problem here, but the one thing I get out of this is that this is really a science that has to be constantly monitored and adjusted and upgraded and changed and reviewed and analyzed and all the things. How does a small business owner, solopreneur, if you will, compete with a Nike, with a Coca-Cola, and I'm whoever the 800-pound gorilla is in your industry, who could have 25 Peter Brussos sitting in a room doing what you can do, Peter? How does a small business owner compete with that?
Well, again, there are some small business tools that help us do this. I mean, Market Samurai, for instance, it has a module in there called Rank Tracker, and it will actually each week track your placement across multiple search engines to show if you're going up or down in the search engines. So there's a tool or a metric you can do for that. If you don't have Market Samurai, then what you want to do is to go on your computer, make sure you're not signed into Google Plus, any of that, so they don't know who you are, or go over to open a browser. There's places where you can go anonymously surf, right, so they can't see you, and then start doing your searches and just trying to see where you're at, kind of the Russian version of just brute force it. But sometimes that's not really telling either, because they know your IP address, which says you're localized, in our case to Palm Springs, for example. So they're going to sift in data relevant to the local search as well. But that's kind of sort of the idea of how you're there. And I know Mark, he looks at his, because you can search for Palm Springs sports or sports in Palm Springs, and he pops up and on the first page. So it's very clear that kind of Russian brute force way is valuable. But if you're penalized, like one of my sites is heavily penalized, getting out of that situation is a real trick. And I will say this: I'm upset with Google. I got an email from Google this weekend that says basically if you have anything to do with a weapon, they're not going to allow you to use AdWords. They're just going to cut you out. You don't get any ads. And I thought, what happened to the Second Amendment? What happened to freedom of speech? So clearly they're starting to decide what products they're even going to push out there. If they don't like you or they don't like your industry, they're just going to eliminate you, which I think, I don't know. I have a big problem with that. But anyway, the brute force way is one way. There are some other tools, the rank tracker type tools, to see how you're doing. And the way to compete is to keep doing keyword research every month and start putting those in there. And the next week's installment will show you how to do it so that it even supersedes Google, and they can't slow you down.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah, Mark.
Can I make a comment? When I started PalmSpringsport.com, the first thing I did was to look at my competition. So what you're saying, Frank, is very valid, meaning I had to see who I was going to compete with with Google. And so I spent hours looking to see my competition. So then I had to realize what I needed to do to compete with those other websites that are on Google. So I did hours and hours of research, and then I put it together using Peter's method, and we are number one, first page and number one under Palm Springs Sports, Palm Springs Sports blog, Palm Springs Sport, and numerous other searches. So you can compete with the big boys as a small business owner, but it takes a lot of time and energy and adjusting and inputting and deleting. And also one other comment I want to make too on the meta keywords about Google. Yes, the consensus say that Google doesn't read them, but I think other searches, Yahoo, Bing, and others could read your meta.
Very true. Very true. Absolutely, very true. And that's why you do it. Yeah, no question. And I mean, Frank, this kind of harkens back to one of our other podcasts about competitive analysis, which is what we're talking about, both Mark and I are talking about. It's so important to unzip their kimono of their website to see what they got and see what we're up against. So but it can be done. It certainly can be done. It's not that expensive, but the real question is, what's it going to cost if I don't do it? That's what the real question is. If you don't spend the money into doing a competitive analysis or keyword research, the real question is, what's it going to cost you if you don't do that? Well, what it usually costs you is no traffic, or no hope.
Peter, I'm going to say a similar thing because you know how big a fan I am of your competitive analysis program. As a small business owner, and I am a small business owner of one. Every day I have to make decisions of how to utilize my time and my investments and all. And I think as a small business that maybe try to compete with one of the 800-pound gorillas, as Frank mentioned, you have to do that competitive analysis and then say, okay, what's the most sense for me to do and spend my time and my money. And I think when you do that, you're going to come out like you just pointed out with, what happens if I don't do this? So I have to sacrifice maybe some other things because this is more important for me to do. So I really think that competitive analysis answers a lot of those questions for you.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say is the clients always ask me, what's it going to cost me to do this? And that's not the right question. It's what's it going to cost you if you don't do it. That's the right question. But, otherwise you have an online brochure.
Yeah.
And also what I find, we all have our business and we are all the expert in our business, but what I find other people do is they tell a webmaster to do it or somebody else to do it, but they need to be involved in their keywords and their keyword analysis because they know their business. You know your own business. You're the expert in the business, so you need to be involved in it. You can't just pass it to somebody else because they don't really know your business as well as you do. So you need to be involved. You can't just pass it to somebody else to do it for you. You need to be involved in your keywords.
Yeah, I had a good friend of mine that works in the industry, a little different, doing business coaching and whatnot. So he put together a website, and I went to look at his keywords, and he has ad copy, comma, consulting, comma, things like that. There's no chance in hell of him ever ranking for any of that. Plus, when you look at it on the page, it's not even on the page. And so it's like, wait a second. And so Mark's right. I mean, they just throw out, oh, this is what I do. Those are my keywords. You'll never rank for those keywords. And that's where a keyword professional will take those interactive words coming from the client and go try to see what they look like. And from the competition, you go look at what the competition is using for keywords, and you analyze every one of them. And out of that sift, out of that filter may pop out some keywords that we can not only use but rank for in that industry. So definitely it's a funneled process, and it's usually an ongoing process as well, for sure. And by the way, and on that same note, for your on-page SEO, if you have a blog, on-site blog, you can also blog and add keywords to that. And you also need to have an off-site blog, but that's next week's conversation. But a blog allows you to add content to a site, add keywords to that page, et cetera, et cetera. So, but it's an ongoing. You need to have you need to have professionals working those websites if you intend to really get them anywhere.
And one other thing is I find what keywords that people do wrong is they make them vague. They make them kind of broad. I tell people make your keywords specific to a point, not just in a open market type of word. Specify the keywords and narrow it down.
Well, and that's another good piece of counsel. One of my clients wants to be a conservative motivational speaker, amongst other things. And so what you have to do is to sit back and ask yourself, if someone wanted to have me as a conservative, keynote speaker or informational speaker or inspirational speaker, what would they type in Google or Bing or Yahoo? Or DuckDuckGo these days. Some of your keywords are not intuitive in the sake that, okay, if I'm a martial artist, I put in the type and the style and the this and the that. But one of the keywords you ought to look at is, possibly martial arts styles, best martial arts styles, easy combat martial arts styles. What is somebody going to type in to find you? And those start to be your keywords that you center around versus my martial arts style ninjutsu, or Anjing Banfa or Arnis or whatever. So some of your keywords are really not even intuitive to your industry. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did that answer the mail, Frank?
Well, yeah. There's one other point I want to make. Obviously, we're in the business, but I see ads all the time. You must have a website, and these people trying to sell you website development or website do-it-yourself website things. GoDaddy sells your website stuff.
Yep.
But just having a website is like having the most beautiful interactive highway billboard placed in the middle of a forest. No car is ever going to drive by. No one's ever going to see it, and you will be one of my obstacles, self-inflicted obstacle. You will be invisible. So having a great website is nice, and you and your family will enjoy it, but you will not attract business unless you are visible to the people that you need to attract when they go in with the keywords that we just talked about. Having a website is halfway there. You cannot get to where you want to go unless you have the things you just talked about the last 2 or 3 weeks, Peter. That's how critical that is.
There is one place in between that. Some people like to have an online brochure. And so, I mean, if they are interacting with clients in the physical world, sending them to your website can be helpful. And that's where all the places will build you a beautiful website, but no, they don't understand about driving traffic. At least there's an option to have an online brochure that you could send people to physically when you talk to them, or put it in your phone book, add whatever. But you're absolutely right. The real power is to get people to find you by typing in keywords and being in those places where your clients are, which is what next week's discussion is all about.
Good. Looking forward to that. Definitely looking
forward
to that.
Well, Frank, let's kick it off over to you. What did we learn in news this week, Frank?
All right. Yeah. This. And I'm trying to come up with a little catchy thing, and I'm not doing well here. I come up with twin. This week in the news. Yeah, I've got a couple items. If we can get to both of them, that'd be great. The first one that came up was Starbucks announced this week that if you work for them a minimum of 20 hours a week, they will do a tuition reimbursement with you at Arizona State University.
Oh, wow.
No, again, now you've got to be a 20-hour-a-week employee. You can't just go for 3 hours a week and get the free tuition. And Starbucks has negotiated a discount with ASU, Arizona State University, and you've got to complete the course. I'm saying, wow, what a neat thing to do. Now, these are Howard Schultz, the founder and CEO of Starbucks, also started the healthcare, and I think he had it free for the most part until Obamacare came in, and then I think he has to have car sharing. But this is a disruptor, if you will. He does things that he thinks is right, and he'll pay out of his profit. So I was thinking about that, and I said, how much profit is Starbucks making to be able to do this all of a sudden? Because it's going to cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. So I started looking into that, and I said, Starbucks, huh? Well, what do you think of? Well, you think of $4 cup of coffee, all right, or whatever the price of coffee is. And then my mind started working. I said, well, if I was a small businessman and I wanted to disrupt Starbucks, what do most small business entrepreneurs do? They come up with an idea that says, hey, I have a new product or service that is better than what is already out there and cheaper. People, and I believe this is a mistake, but we'll go along with it. Entrepreneurs, new ones, say, can I do something better and cheaper than what is out there? If I do, people will flock to my door. And I said, all right, well, Frank, how are you going to compete with Starbucks? They've got the biggest name in the world. They've got all these locations. So what if you come up with a better cup of coffee that is cheaper? You can't beat Starbucks. And then I thought of McDonald's. McDonald's offers coffee. They always have. But in order to compete Starbucks, they went out and get a higher priced coffee bean, or higher quality coffee bean. And they did a blind taste test, and people compared a number of different brands, Starbucks.
Whoops.
As the better cup of coffee.
We lost your audio there for just Frank.
Wow, okay. And then McDonald's says, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's...
can you hear me now?
Yeah. So McDonald's went out and got the coffee, better coffee bean. Take it up from there.
Got a better bean and won the taste test. Right, doing the taste test. And then McDonald's says, we're going to charge $1 for a cup of coffee. And they did. They had this dollar coffee promotion. People went in the morning and so forth. And so I said, okay, well, let's look at the two companies. Starbucks has 5,500 locations worldwide. That's a lot of locations. McDonald's has 33,000 locations. For every one Starbucks you see, there are 60 McDonald's.
Wow.
Okay, so they definitely have the wherewithal, the distribution. McDonald's market cap is $100 billion. Starbucks is $56 billion. So bigger than Starbucks. They have more locations. They have a better cup of coffee, and they have a lot cheaper price. So what do small business entrepreneurs do? A better product with a lower price. McDonald's can't lose. McDonald's profit in 2013 from all of their, not just coffee sales, from all of their products, was $1.5 billion. Starbucks profit in 2013 was $3.8 billion. Starbucks is half the size, has 1/60th the number of locations, has half the market cap, and more than double the profit. And the lesson here is, if you're a small business entrepreneur and you want to grow your business or start a new business, going better and cheaper does not always guarantee victory.
Good.
Do something different. What
Now,
Starbucks does. I'm sorry,
sorry.
what? No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What Starbucks does is they don't just sell you a cup of coffee, they sell you an experience.
Right, it's a culture.
There you go. Starbucks says, hey, you can get coffee at McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts. Your gas station sells coffee. Okay? If you just want a cheap cup of coffee, go there. You're not my customers. You're not the people I'm trying to attract. But if you want a good cup of coffee, and obviously they said it's not the best. If you want a good cup of coffee and you want to enjoy the experience, and oh, by the way, I'm gonna create a coffee cup that people will know you came to my store because of that emblem they have on the coffee cup. The other stores have just a white cup, which is very nondescript. Now they've come to colors now. The lesson here is don't be better and cheaper, be different. People pay for a premium for a difference. It's not what you deliver them that's important. It's how they feel after you deliver what you deliver. Starbucks customers are paying for how they feel. Someone once described this to me as that Starbucks sells a $4 cup of coffee for $2. You pay $2 for how you feel after you buy the cup of coffee. So that's this week in the news lesson for small business owners. Being better and cheaper may not be the way to go. Being different and more profitable is much more desirable. Comments, please.
Oh, absolutely. Boy, Frank, you hit that nail on the head big time. What a great diatribe that is. You know, I invented a new vending machine here back, when it was, I guess, 2000 something. Anyway, I got linked in with, actually it was in the 1990s, mid-1990s. I got linked up with a coffee company, and they'd been trying to invent a new coffee or a vending machine. And anyway, long story short, I learned the coffee industry. And one of the things Frank told me, not you, Frank, my partner Frank, was that, and they've been coffee for 30 years, right? And they would go on around the businesses and trying to offer a half a cent, 2 cents less than the competitors, for the coffee, and then people were in it for the price, and they were getting a cup of coffee down to 50 cents, 25 cents, and here comes Starbucks for $2.50 or $4 a cup of coffee. They laughed at them and said, "No, nobody's going to even buy your coffee at that price. It's totally outrageous." It turns out you're absolutely right, Frank. What Starbucks did well is it created a Starbucks culture. It's a sense of feeling the green, the organic, the real coffee, all the products that are there. It's an experience versus just going to a vending machine and getting a 50-cent cup of coffee. And people did, in fact, track that experience. They wanted to be part of that. Again, it goes back to we're tribal. you know. I mean, we're naturally tribal individuals. That's how we came from survival. They don't trust the other tribe. They look different than we do, or they eat this thing that we don't eat, and we've been told don't eat that because it kills us. And so, we're all prejudiced, so to speak, because we've been tribal. And if you take that to the extreme, if you can create a culture or a tribe around your brand, just like you're saying, that's an experience that people will come back each and every time. Even if it's more expensive than the competitor, you do a better job at entertaining and having that experience. That's my point. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll jump in. And I agree with what Frank's saying, but I have surprisingly a little different view of it. I think if I think if McDonald's, which I'm sure they do, did a competitive analysis like they came up with the fact that they're not competing with Starbucks. They're not after the Starbucks client. They're after the Wendy's client, the Burger King client, all the fast food breakfast houses within blocks of each other. And I think you guys are absolutely right. Starbucks has created a culture that is. I was in one just this week. As part of my business, I try to go out and meet people, and I was at a Starbucks. It was full. This is in the 110-degree weather in Palm Desert. It was full. Not one person would look up from their computer or their iPad or whatever. They're all sitting there doing whatever they do. It's a culture. You walk in there, you can see it's different. McDonald's has got their own culture. You go to McDonald's at early in the morning, and you'll see pretty much everyone you go to, you'll see 7 or 8 senior citizens there every morning, sitting there having their coffee clutch and things like that. And they are competing in a much different world than Starbucks. They're competing in the fast food breakfast world. And that's why I don't think that they looked at it and said, okay, I'm going to come out with $1 coffee because of Starbucks, because they came out with $1 soda. Any soda you get, you pay $1 for at McDonald's now. And that's because they want people, come from Burger King that may charge $2 for a Diet Coke to them for $1. So I think that McDonald's is very successful in the realm that they're in because they know who the competition is, and I think they've created their own culture, and they're trying to create that away from the other fast food places. That's just
well, let me jump in there, Frank. Dick, I think you've got some excellent points there. However, when they put their coffee up against the gold standard of Starbucks, they're not putting up against the gold standard of Burger King or the other ones. I think they literally were going after, of course, everybody, but Starbucks people, for sure, had to be part of their thinking because they were put up against Starbucks as being the yardstick, the gold standard, whatever you want to call, of the coffee industry. So, yeah, it's very interesting, and the cultures are different, but they're making a play, I think. Frank?
Let me just finish up here a second, Frank.
Sure.
I truly think this is from a marketing point of view. If you're able to say to the fast food breakfast eater, my coffee better than Starbucks, by implication, it means it's better than all the other guys. So I think, from a marketing point of view, I think that's why they did it. If you go out for breakfast, you go to Starbucks if you want your $5 coffee and your free wireless and your muffin. But if you want to go out and have a fast food breakfast, you're not. I think they're two different clienteles. My own opinion.
Okay, Frank?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to do something I very seldom do. I'm going to agree with Dick on one point.
Well, let me have a heart attack.
Man,
it's a big one, Martha. It's a big one.
A couple of things. McDonald's did advertise that their coffee beat Starbucks, and I think McDonald's would love to have the Starbucks customer. They're like any customer because they're in a tight war. But when you're starting your business, or when you're growing your business, you've really got to decide who you want to attract to your business. And I think too many I don't know if it's most or not because I don't know these statistics. Too many small business owners think that, hey, if I can just deliver a better product at a lower price, I can't lose. And I think that's one of the surefire ways to lose. Because unless your name is Costco or Walton, someone will always beat you on the price. Someone will always beat you on a price. But if you are a Howard Schultz, which is Starbucks, or you whatever it is, and you promote your difference, no one can compete with you because you are who you are. So do you want to go after the value? What's the cheapest price I can get a sweet customer at the lowest possible margins I can survive? Or would you rather go after the customer says, you know what, I'll pay a little bit more to have my experience? This is one I follow out of Australia named Bernadette Jiwa, Jiwa, and I follow her blogs and so forth. And she made a statement the other day, which again, and I resonate with these statements. She said, your customers really don't care what you do, and they really don't care how you do it. You know what they care about? Is how they feel after they experience what you do. People want to feel better or happier or less stressed or healthier or feel good. The green movement is all about feeling good for you, good that you're doing something positive for the environment. Howard Schultz saw that back in 80 something when he started Starbucks. Okay, he knew people could always get a better, pay more for coffee and charge a lower price like McDonald's can. But he says now, he says, I want people to feel good about walking in. I want people to feel good when they're sitting there. And I want people to be proud when they walk out with that cup with the green emblem on it so that their friends can see they just came from Starbucks. I think the term you used was culture, Dick, and I think you're so right. And every one of us, and this is one of my mantras, every one of us can create our own culture. Every one of us can change the world, the world being defined as our sphere of influence. It's hard work, but if you do that, it's yours. I am anti better and lower priced. I am pro different and higher price. And that's the point I was making with the McDonald's or Starbucks.
Yeah, Frank, I couldn't agree with you more. I think I admire what Starbucks is
Oh
what
man,
they've
be careful, Dick. I
created.
don't want you to have a heart attack either.
No, what they've created. The only place that I feel there's some area of difference is I think that both companies have purposely carved out a niche because like I say, you almost every McDonald's you go into around 7 o'clock in the morning in the United States, and I've been in a lot of them as I travel around the country. You'll find a group of senior citizens sitting there. They can't afford to go to Starbucks. They can go to McDonald's for the dollar cup of coffee and say, geez, I'm drinking coffee for $1 that's better than Starbucks. That's just a niche that McDonald's is after. It's a great niche. It's just, and it's the middle or low income people that can't afford to go to Starbucks. My wife, I don't drink coffee, so it doesn't matter. But my wife every once in a while does, and I'll go to Starbucks and get that in the muffin. I've spent $9. I said, holy mackerel, this better be good. I could, it's just, I just think both companies have distinct categories. I think McDonald's took great pleasure in beating Starbucks and would love to have the Starbucks customer, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're going to get them for the reasons Frank has pointed out. So, just one last thing, and I agree, you should never start a business saying, I'm going to do it cheaper and better than everybody else, because that's a formula for failure.
Yeah, I think it used to be that way at one time, but it certainly isn't now. Yeah. Let me, everybody knows I'm working with agelesssecret.com, a shameless plug, but just to illustrate Frank's point, yesterday I was sitting with Jim, and we're talking about his new skin serum product that's really crazy good for females and males too, but basically, and he sells it in a 3-pack accompanied with 2 other products for free. And why? Because they'll get better results by using the 3 in combination. So he's leaving $50 on the table to make sure that they have enough product in combination to absolutely prove that it works and they love it, and be part of his culture. It's a very, very very, very correct point, Frank. But and he's not thinking like that. I mean, he's not thinking. He certainly didn't listen to us, but he understands, very well that it's the experience of his product, and he forethought ahead enough to discount or actually give away two pieces of the product that work in concert with the new one to get the fantastic results that they're looking for. I just saw it in action yesterday, Frank.
Well, unsolicited advice. Okay.
Okay. What's the next, the twin story
I
here?
want to say one thing, though, with Frank, if you don't mind.
No. Hold on. Mark, please, how many... Explain what I said, because I think Peter took it the wrong way, and then I will now like to respond after you. Unsolicited advice, not from you, but for Jim, that I will pass through you. No.
Oh yeah,
there's nothing unsolicited here.
I'm just saying. No. Jim is not listening to us. What I did is I witnessed exactly what you're talking about. That's what I'm trying to say, and it was the right answer. That's what I was trying to say.
After Mark gives his thing, I'd like to give you, I think, a better way for Jim to approach the market. But Mark, please, I interrupted you, and I apologize for that.
No problem, Frank. Again, I'm agreeing with you, Frank, because, again, right now I'm in the process of developing a sports social network. And what I'm trying to create is to customize the sports social network according to regions. And so what I'm doing is each region of the world, or in this case of the United States, has different sports, different activities that caters to their region. For example, Palm Springs, Coachella Valley, we are the golf capital of the world. We have over 100 and so golf courses. We also are heavily involved in tennis with the BNP Paribas tennis tournament. So Palm Springs Sport is catered to the Palm Springs Coachella Valley. Now, granted, different areas, for instance, let's say Colorado, Denver, Colorado, where they're catered to skiing, cycling, hiking, and other things. So with Sports Refer, what we're doing is creating a culture, what Dick is saying, a culture for each region, and then bringing it all together in each region, but bringing it all together into one. So that's my challenge right now, is exactly what Frank is saying.
Okay, Frank.
Yeah. I got a couple of, again, Mark, I just thought of something for you as well. And again, you know, this is freeform because we're just talking here, which I enjoy. But let me start with Mark first. Mark, quick story. When I first started going, I guess it was '93, doing my thing as an entrepreneur, getting out of the corporate world, Barnes & Noble was my university. I would, whether I had a problem in my business life, or my family life, or my personal life, or my fitness life, whatever it was, my first thought was I'll go to Barnes & Noble and find out what I could learn, because I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And I was a Barnes & Noble devotee. And then I heard of Amazon, and I said, Amazon. Online, you know, I like to have the book in my hand, so forth. Anyway, so I said, all right, so I bought a couple of books at Amazon just to try it out. And then Amazon not only took me away from Barnes & Noble, I went running toward Amazon to get away from Barnes & Noble as possible. Because here's what Amazon did. Amazon said, hey, Frank, based on the books you've bought, plus the books you reviewed, I've got 3 books that I think fall in line with what you're trying to do. Why don't you at least look at these and see if you'd like to buy them? I said, wow. These are 3 books I did not know existed, but Amazon went out of their way to tell me about it. Barnes & Noble would send me a message, hey, Frank, here are the top-selling books we had in the U.S. in the last month. What the hell do I care? I'm not interested in those books. I think you have a prime opportunity if you know who the people are that are coming into your Palm Spring thing. Said, hey, if you're interested in, I see that you're interested in hiking or walking or BNP Paribas, whatever. Hey, here's 2 or 3 things that you may not know about that are occurring in Denver or Coachella Valley that at least look at it. And all of a sudden they say, I've got to check out, see what Mark is recommending for me this week or this month. Or I'm going to be in Coachella Valley in September for after whatever it is for an event. What does Mark think I should even look at? And Palm Springs Sports with the S at the end, they're not doing that. You can, and you'll be the go-to place. Okay, whatever that's worth. Let's go back to Mr. Kazik.
Thank you,
Peter, I know you're working with him, and we see him every Tuesday. Quick story. My wife just got a letter this week from her high school, Arcadia High School, inviting her to her class reunion. Okay. And you know what and she's not here, so I can talk about it. She has to watch the broadcast.
Because she can watch the podcast, right? So
I guarantee her first thought was, how will I look at my? Well, in her case, I think it was a 20th reunion. Yeah, it was yeah, she's a little bit younger. Her 20th reunion, and her first thought was, how will I look? And I think what Jim should do, because we're just talking here amongst ourselves, people.
Oh, that's a good point.
Jim says, do you want to look younger? Well, I attended a webinar yesterday from a guy, a sales coach, and he says, do you want to make more money? And I got so turned off. I said, what a dumb, stupid-ass question. You know, what the, Mac, you look stupid to even ask me a dumb question like that, all right? Of course, everybody wants to look younger, but if Jim promoters, hey, do you have a wedding or a high school reunion coming up in the next 3 months? Start using my product today, and I guarantee you will look the youngest you can look with no Botox, with no surgery, just using my product, guaranteed or your money back. People want to look younger at their high school reunion or at their niece's wedding, as opposed to, do you want to look younger? Well, we all want to look younger. We all want to make more money. Whatever that's worth, Peter. I think Jim should be much more pointed in his ads.
Well, yeah, that's a great call. I love that. And, you know, there's a couple great big websites, you know, highschoolreunions.com, I think. You know, that'd be a perfect place. Very cool. And wedding
people,
sites
and
as well.
people would flock to say, no Botox, no surgery. I can try it out, and I can get my money back if I don't look. Because I remember I asked Jim this question when we were still at the restaurant, and I said, if I use your product for 3 months, will I look younger in 3 months? He said, yes. And I said, will you guarantee? He said, yes, give you your money back if you don't. I said, bingo. There's your
Yeah,
book.
It's very powerful.
You will look younger at your high school reunion, guaranteed, or your money back. When you give guarantees, you got to raise the price. I'm always, that's worth.
We can make those claims in person. We certainly can't do that on a website, but there's a bunch of legal beagle stuff that we're not aware of. And in the pharmaceutical area, if you're a pharmaceutical, you can make structure and function arguments and changes, and if you're in a cosmetic, you can't. So what do you really say? And the only people that get around it in the industry is Johnson & Johnson and Neutrogena. They can make all these medical claims without having to back them up, basically. But you know, these products, either they work or they don't work. And if they don't work, if your marketing's really good, you get as much money as you can, right? Just keep fooling people. But in Jim's case, not only does it work, there's a 100% money back guarantee. And I think that's extremely powerful marketing.
And the neat thing is, he said, and if you don't think you look younger, I'll give you your money back.
Absolutely.
If you don't think, not scientific proof, if you don't think, it's strictly subjective. If you don't think you look younger, take a picture the day you start my application. Take a picture the day before your high school reunion. If you don't think you look younger, sorry it didn't work out, here's your money back. Bingo.
Yeah, you know, even over on the website, because we can't make a lot of claims, but I just say, hey, it simply works. Just take a look at the before and after pictures. There's no question.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, so people want to look younger at events. They don't want to look younger in, you know, it's too general. Do you want to look younger? Be specific, and I can relate. So
okay, that's great too. Okay, good. Anybody else want to weigh in on that before we go to the second twin?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick is how we're brainstorming on these ideas and how you can put these ideas into your meta tags and your meta description and also your meta keywords. So through these brainstorming ideas that you think, oh, this could work or that could work, then try it out in your meta keywords in areas that.
Interesting to put. Jim yesterday coined a term. Yeah, I think you'll like this, Frank. Basically, what Well, I coined two that I thought were really powerful. Sensational beauty without harm. Think that out. That's pretty good. And the best one is the end of old-looking skin. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
end of old-looking
Descriptive.
skin. And
Very
if you watch our
descriptive.
podcast, I put those in there. I put it in tags and everything, just like Mark is talking about. The end of old-looking skin, and and then sensational beauty without harm. Really, really great things that Jim is popping up with that we can capitalize on. Okay,
Good.
it's agelesssecret.com for those who want to go to a selfless plug. Thank you very much. Now, Frank, twin number two.
Twin number two. You know what's happening in Brazil this month is the World Cup, the most watched event in the world. It eclipses by far our Super Bowl here in the States. I don't know where people are watching in the States and our World Series and that kind of thing. And it's country pride. Now I'm a soccer fan, so I watch it anyway. But even people who are not soccer fans watch it because of the intense rivalries and the patriotism. I mean, they play the national anthem of each team before the match, and I've seen these grown men, soccer players, weep because of the pride that they're going to be out there representing their country. And there's a whole country. There's a whole country, I don't know wherever they are, of people gathered around TV sets or in bars or whatever, or even on big screens. And it's the greatest feeling, and I love it. Anyway, so a little bit of background about the World Cup. Last they play every 4 years. 4 years ago it was held in South Africa, and the winner was Spain. And Spain celebrated. They beat Netherlands in a World Cup final. It was a great match. And Spain won, and maybe Netherlands should have beat them, but they didn't. Spain won, and Spain was at the top of the World Cup world. And then this past year, they have something called UEFA, which is the club championship in Europe. And one of the teams, in fact, the two teams in Spain made the finals, and Atletico won. So Spain is coming into this tournament saying, wow, yeah, man, we are going to repeat. The last team to repeat was Brazil. So Spain plays its first game against, guess who? The Netherlands, who they beat in the World Cup finals 4 years ago. And the question was, how much would Spain win by? You know, they were both pretty close, but Spain just won the UEFA championships. And they played, and the Netherlands beat them 5-1. It wasn't even close.
That's a huge
score. It wasn't and I don't know if you know anything about soccer. 5 goals is a lot.
That's huge.
And
well,
so
they must have taken a playbook. They must have taken a play page off of our last podcast with Cantor, wasn't it? Cantor losing, or who lost on the re-election? Yeah, with Cantor. Yeah.
Oh so, yeah, Eric Cantor. That's right. Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
I didn't tie that. Yes, very good. Okay, so I said, well, maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe Spain partied too much the night before. So yesterday, Spain played Chile. Now, I don't know where Chile ranks, okay, but Chile being in South America, I'm sure they had a lot of fans there. And Spain lost 2-0. They say nil in soccer, 2-0. And now Spain accomplished something that no other World Cup champion have ever accomplished before. They were eliminated in the first 2 games, and now Spain was out. And now there's a bunch of things of what happened with Spain, and the Spain of country is mourning and so forth. And I said, what's the lesson here? And here's the lesson from Spain's defeat, humiliating defeat, let me put it that way. Spain brought back 15 players from 4 years ago. They have 23 players in a team, brought back 15. The Netherlands and Chile had some players from 4 years ago, but they had a lot of the new, younger players. And the lesson here is, just because it worked in the past doesn't mean it's going to work today. And you know I'm big on the prospecting thing. The old prospecting rules, which worked way back then, they work today, but they don't work as well. The Netherlands and Chile brought back, they did a kick it into the center of the field and run toward it type of strategy, as opposed to having a lot of dancing around. You've got to constantly be improving your strategies and your tactics because your competitors are. And if you're not competitive, you will become a Spain and you will be eliminated. And if you're eliminated, you don't make a sale. If you don't make a sale, you don't have any cash flow. You don't have any cash flow. You don't have any business. If you don't have any business, you go bankrupt. So the lesson here is, Just because it worked before, consider what your competition is doing and do something different and beat them at their game. And that's my lesson for this week of Spain versus in the World Cup.
All right. Any comments on that, Mr. Palm Springs Sport?
Well, of course, with sports, I love it. But I think what Frank is trying to say is, okay, you're on top of the world one day, but the next day you could be on the bottom of the world. So how do you sustain to be good? How do you sustain greatness? And it's hard to be on top, but it's harder to stay on top. And I think that's what you're saying, Frank.
And I'm sorry. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try something new because your competitors are.
Yeah, I like the idea though that Spain thought old age and treachery is going to win out over youth and vigor any day. Works in martial arts, maybe doesn't work in soccer, but if it's not broken, don't fix it. There's some competitive thoughts on the other side why you might want to keep a management team, familiar with each other, that's been in battle. Versus bringing all new boys on too. So it's 6 to 1 half doesn't do another. But Spain obviously won it out. Or lost it out. This case.
Spain was too stuck in the old ways, and the game has changed. And Netherlands and Chile took advantage of that. And Spain says, well, it worked 4 years ago. It worked today, and it did not. And they are paying the price. So.
I think that's good counsel for marriages as well. I mean, reason that marriages and relationships go every which direction is, in fact, you're supposed to be moving side by side, and if the one changes a little bit, the other one goes with it, and, it's when you get this gap going is you got the problem, and I think that's kind of sort of what they did.
Interesting. Anyway. You talk about marriages. How much, do we have a minute here?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I moved out here to California from Massachusetts, going through a pretty nasty divorce and some family issues, and I came out alone. I didn't know anybody and so forth. So I said, how am I going to meet people? And I became the marketing director of a singles group in Pasadena.
Oh Jesus!
And
Rich. My God.
No, like a home run.
A lot of strength.
Oh my God.
That's a home run, Frank.
That's a fox in a hen house. If you're going to have a fox in a hen house, you're going to eat chicken every night.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make, but there's a lot of stories with beers and coffees, if you will. The point I was trying to make is that I had been out of the dating world for 23 years, and man, had things changed, and I had to learn a bunch of new things, and I did some well and did some poorly. And anyway, the point of the story is that a business is either doing one of two things. It's growing or it's shrinking. It never stays the same because your competitors are growing and shrinking. And if you're not doing something to grow, then you are shrinking. That was the point of this whole diatribe, if you will. That's it.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Well, I want to make one closing statement on my side, then we'll go through closing statements for everybody. But, Frank, great lessons today. Two things I want to say. One is, you made a statement in our 111 group meeting how proud you were of this podcast. And I have to say, I am too. We really are getting some incredibly rich lessons out for people to listen to. Just priceless, I think. To pay for this stuff would be really difficult to afford to do. The other thing is, I go back to my statement when I ask CEOs, why do people pay you money? And they come up again with, because I have a PhD or because I've done this or whatever. And none of that's true. Why they pay you money is because you add value in their life. And when you stop adding value in their lives, your customers' and clients' lives, they're going to stop paying you money. Same thing is true in your marriage. When you stop adding value, there's not going to be there anymore. So, one of those things is constantly keeping abreast of what you're doing, no pun intended there, and to constantly refine your techniques and make sure you're answering the mail, make sure you are certainly in the place of adding value constantly so people won't want to leave. And from a business standpoint, that's the two things I wanted to say. Dick, do you have any closing statements you want to make?
Well, just briefly, I thought it was a good good hour session here, and I've been reading a lot about Michael Dell, who was just taking his company private after being public for so many years and starting out in his garage and becoming, the computer source for many years, and then through a lot of reasons, not staying up with technologies and things like that, he took the company private. And in an interview, people are asking him, well, how do you think you're going to be able to compete just because you're private? And he said, well, there's a lot of reasons why. But he said the main reason, he said, I started my company with the belief that I'm going to take back that we lost is people do not buy products, they buy solutions. Like Peter, you've said often, people will buy for benefits. So he says we will provide solutions. The product will follow what the solutions need to be fixed. And I think anyone who is in business has to look at what they're selling and what they have and see what solutions they can solve, and that kind of takes them to the market they need to go to. So that's my final thought.
Okay, Mark, final thought?
Well, again, Peter, I want to thank you for inviting me to the podcast. Great information, Frank and Peter. I think what we bring here to the table is between the three of you is years and years of business experience. And sitting here listening to all three of you, I learn all the time. So I want to thank all three of you guys for your information.
You're more than welcome. We learned from you too, Mark.
Well, thank you.
So, okay, you betcha. Frank, closing thoughts?
Yeah, and I'll repeat another statement I made at our Tuesday morning meeting. I get excited about starting the podcast, and I'm always amazed that I'm more excited when we end the podcast. I am so jazzed up right now, and I haven't had any coffee while I've been doing this. I get a lot out of these podcasts, and I want to thank you guys for putting this. You and Peter and Dick for putting this together and allowing me to participate, because I get a lot out of it. Hopefully somebody gets other things too, but I learn a lot, and I want to thank you guys as well.
You got it froze off there, but when I joined the 111 group, I kept talking about podcasting, and I don't think anybody could spell that. And now look at you guys. We have people on mobile on this darn thing, and what a great platform, and what a great way to share and help people and push our businesses out there other than podcasting. I think it's phenomenal, and it, taught Dick how to build his own website and his mobile site, and I helped Mark with his stuff. And Frank, I haven't done much with you but podcasting. So, but it is valuable, and I think that certainly people watch us and get a lot of information from us. So I think that's really cool. But all right, guys. Well, next week we'll do the end of our final piece on the internet marketing. And then maybe Dick will come up with another thought on some series that we can do. And then Frank, you'll keep pressure on the twins. And I think that'll be a lot of fun for the show.
Yep.
All right, guys.
I can't wait to find out what's going to be on the twins portion next week, because I have no idea. All depends on the news.
Boy, it does, and that's half the fun of it. Other than the marine news I was telling you about earlier, it's not appropriate for this podcast. But boy, that's crazy stuff. But yeah, so let's see each other next week. All right.
All righty.
All right, hang on, guys. Let's start the podcast. Say goodnight, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
All right.